have no add-ons.
All right, then, Barney, I guess you're up.
Okay. I distributed the information we got from Meter with regard to the investment portfolio. Probably the most interesting little bit of information is on the last page of their report, where they do a little circle breakdown of how we have the portfolio invested. It stays pretty much that way. We've got almost half of it in federal agency bonds, and then small amounts in various other things that make up the other half. But they're really, interest rates continue to move up. Our average yield moves up. I don't know if you all have had a chance to look at the report for July, which I was able to get out over the weekend, at the end of Friday. Last week I got the statements early, and we saw a bump up in the yield, primarily because we had $139 million at Star, Ohio, as a result of collection money coming in, which essentially all goes out to municipalities. But Star, Ohio, because short-term rates have inverted, Star, Ohio was yielding 2.02%, and that pulled our average yield up almost 0.4% over what it was at the end of June. So we see these interesting changes in what the yield are based on the bulges of income that we get in February and in July each year with the real estate tax collections before they're distributed. In February, Star, Ohio was paying less than the average on our other investments, and the yield was actually lowered because of that, the average yield across the portfolio for interest credit. So it's just interesting to see how those things move around. But the core of the portfolio continues to be solid and moving up in average yield. We're above 1%, 1.4 at the end of July, a little bit more than that now. As things mature, or as we're able to sell and reinvest and recover any loss that we make within before the yield, before the issue would have matured, we've been doing that to increase our yields going forward. McCord at Meter has been leading the way for us on that. But that's not a lot of changes, just moving forward with the changes in rates that are available to us.
We'd stayed fairly short, right, in
Yes,
maturities
yes.
when the rates started going up.
Right.
And
we were
kind of made a bet on that a little bit, right?
Right. We were running about 1 year. We're a little longer than 1 year average maturity for the portfolio now, but significantly less than 2 years.
What are they saying? I mean, should we start? What are they recommending? Because obviously they're going to continue to slam on the brakes. You just had a tremendously high employment number. Fed's going to do another 3/4, if not 100 basis points. You got the 10-year Treasury at what, 290 or something? It down from 310. So long rates really aren't going up, even though short rates are, which is the classic inversion. We're buying really across the maturity range. We're buying 2, 3, and 4 year stuff to kind of extend our maturity slightly without reaching way out there. When we can get decent yields at 2 and 3 years, we're buying those, which extends our average maturity, but doesn't commit us to being locked in for the long term. At some point, we should go longer term once we think they're
once the yield curve quits being inverted. Yeah, I mean, but we shouldn't be buying 5 year. When we can get more in 2 year.
Oh, 100%. But yeah, at some point when they're gonna, the recession's coming.
Right.
At some point, job numbers will roll over, slam it. But then, arguably, the next year, whenever that is, if that's 23 or 24, that's when they'll start looking to cut rates again.
Right, and we'll need to be.
And that's when we should be long. At that
right.
point.
That's when we need to have longer maturities put in. Anything else? If not, I believe the next thing on the agenda is a request for proposals for printing our tax bills. We had when I first came to work here, Jim had me go out and solicit for firms to handle that for us, to outsource printing of the bills. And we did an RFP then and found a firm in eastern Pennsylvania that specialized in doing that. And it happened that they're south of Philadelphia, basically on the east edge of Pennsylvania. And it happened that my high school reunion was happening at the same time, so I took an extra day. Had the county pay for an overnight, one-night overnight stay, and I went to the reunion. But I visited the shop. It was a hole in the wall, frankly, that was no more square footage than this room, and they were very high volume doing billing, and so they didn't have any extraneous capital. They were running very fast, and they were cheaper by about $20,000 a year than the next highest bidder was going to be for us. And so we went with them, and I knew at the time it was a husband and wife operation. They had 4 kids. None of them were into business. I figured that at some point they were going to sell out, but we got 5 years of really great service, actually, very inexpensively with them. They sold out last fall, and so I worried about what things were going to be like. First half went very well because the lady who was our primary contact was there for the transition at the new firm. Second half was horrible. We asked for information about when they wanted to have data in order to be able to print when we wanted the bills to go out. No answer. We kept after them. We didn't get responses for 2 or 3 days at a time in response to our questions. Finally, they indicated that they were having printing problems, formatting the data that we give them to put it on the bill, and they weren't going to be able to make the date that we wanted to go to mail, and then it kept going all the following week. They finally mailed 10 days after we had wanted them to go out. The day before, we would have been in violation of the code, which says we have to get bills in the mail 20 days before the due date. And so we canceled the contract. We're going out to get someone else to find someone else to print for us, starting for next year. I suspect we're going to have to pay more, but for 60,000 bills in February, the charge was about $6,500. And so I don't, it's not going to break us. Frankly, the postage was $21,000 for our February mailing. But we had just horrible service from the successor company that bought them out, and so we need to find somebody else. So we're looking. I have to thank Crystal for putting the RFP in good form and covering for my lack of talent in formatting Word documents. But I think we're set to go. We'll be in touch with the commission with regard to what kind of results we get.
Yeah, and that's not an investment advisory committee decision. That's your decision, right? The commissioners have to ask for the contract, but that's my decision. That's not investment advisory.
Do we have a resolution to do this?
Yeah, I have a resolution to authorize the request for proposals for tax bill printing and mailing services on behalf of the Warren County Treasurer.
So moved.
And yes?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Mr. Spaeth, how are you doing over there? Is everything, you still rocking and rolling? Auto sales, unbelievable?
So, day at a time, one day at a time. But we're looking forward to working with your staff before the beginning of next year for our overall outlook on salaries, benefits, that type of thing. We've talked to Tiffany already once about that. But I know how important that is, and I'd just like to be part of that discussion.
Very good.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right.
We We've got to wait for 2 minutes here, Bruce.
Let's do.
Okay. So, thanks very much.
Thanks, Barney.
So
Thanks, Jim.
when's the tennis tournament starts this weekend?
I believe so, tennis.
Yeah, they'll do the play-ins this weekend and then full bore, I think, Monday through next weekend, the following.
Good. Excellent. What's that?
So we have press in the room today. Mr. Ritker's here.
There you go. See, you never know when we're dropping.
You picked just an exciting one, too.
Perhaps you were chastised that morning meetings were a little more important than our beloved commissioner meeting on Tuesdays.
Check with my boss, he signs my paycheck. As you watch, you must see on TV. I think I'm one of your 30 subscribers.
What do you say, 30 subscribers?
We reached dozens and dozens of people.
Tens.
Tens.
Okay, Bruce, can we start?
Yes, if it's time.
Just about to be. So we have a public hearing to consider a request from the county engineer, Mr. Tunison's office, to
Right.
depart from the official thoroughfare plan with regard
Correct.
to Grandin Road, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Kroger is interested in purchasing property on State Route 48, right just south of Grandin Road, and they would have access along one of the roads that we've established in our thoroughfare plan. And well, I was just looking for there, that's it. I was looking for something to point, but you don't have that.
You
Okay.
use the mouse,
Use the mouse,
I think. It's the mouse works.
Yep.
okay, very good, thank you. Okay, very good. But, I don't know if you can see, this is the area that was in our Hoptown plan. We did this project, made this revision to the thoroughfare plan about 16 years ago. And we built a portion of that on the west side of 48. It's the solid blue line. Having a hard time finding it, but the Kroger store would be going in, here we go. The Kroger store will be going in this area.
So there is one, what, just above the 4, basically?
Yeah, that's right. Oh. Yeah, it's right about where the 4 is. And
They're just moving their location?
they're moving their location.
Okay, and they want to change the road
Right.
location?
There's a portion of we had Grandin Road being tied into what we now call Town Center Boulevard. And well, very touchy. But this didn't really fit in Kroger's development plan. They have their store, the store would be built right in the middle of it, and they have a click list and a pharmacy that they want access to, so they would be coming off of Grandin Road. So we do need Grandin Road extended to their site, but just for that purpose of just a portion of their store. They don't want it connected all the way to Town Center Boulevard. So we're actually okay with that because, and this is looking at a little different view of it. 48 is running lengthwise across it, and 22 is running diagonally. And then Grandin Road would be kind of hooking down on the right-hand side, and that orange piece at the bottom is where the piece that we're wanting to deviate from the thoroughfare plan. The red section shows where we would anticipate congestion due to this extension. And so we're supportive of this deviation from the thoroughfare plan, eliminating that orange piece of Grandin Road through their property. There's a driveway that runs right where the T is and the traffic congestion. There's a drive that runs back into the Wendy's and serves that strip mall. I can't remember the name of it now.
So are they knocking out that little strip mall, and there's a few things there on the corner?
Correct. There's a
Well, Charles Hamilton, I mean, Skip Hamilton's thing's there, right?
Yeah, he's just to the right of our photo here.
So is that staying, or is that the property they're building on?
They're building right, find the arrow.
Next to Shooters, I think, the other side of the road.
Oh, it's the other side?
I think so.
They're building right in here.
Oh.
Kroger's is going in here. And then there's a Wendy's here, there's a car wash here, there's an old, there's a former Indian restaurant right, here's the Kroger store, here's the Wendy's, and here's the Wendy's restaurant here, the car wash, and then this is where the Kroger store would be going in here. This is the extension of Town Center Boulevard. And so we're eliminating this piece of Grandin Road from our thoroughfare plan, deviating from the thoroughfare plan to allow this to happen. And so there's an entry, the entry to the Wendy's is right here, and it backs up right now with traffic coming out of that strip mall back into Town Center Boulevard, so we don't want to aggravate that problem. So we anticipate, a lot more traffic coming back into the store, accessing the, like I said, the click list, delivery area, and the pharmacy, the drive-through pharmacy window. So we see some benefit to eliminating this. It's to my understanding that the township, they could not be here today. Brent Centers, the township administrator, indicated to Kurt, who couldn't make it today either, that the township was supportive of our deviation from the thoroughfare. Now, there are some caveats to this. We would like to, we would still like to see this road be built over to 22 in the future. And Kroger is going to be building about a 1,100-foot section of Town Center Boulevard to access. They'll have an entry here and an entry here into the store. But they don't plan on building this at this time. But we would like for them to go ahead and dedicate the right-of-way for this. They do control this property. The boundary is about right here, and it butts property that it belongs to the Turning Leaf subdivision, and then from that there's a store and lock development here, and we anticipate the road going on this side of the store and lock. At least that's the way we anticipate it with the Hoptown, what we call the Hoptown plan. It could go here, but we would like to see this right-of-way dedicated, all the easements that would be needed. There's a stream that runs through here that if we ever have to do any work in here, it's going to require relocating the stream, which means that we're now having to pay fees through the Corps of Engineers to get the permit. We'll be having to pay mitigation fees to deal with this. So there's a lot of grading and whatnot that we'd have to do. We'd like to be able to do this work without having to purchase right away from Kroger in the future. So we would like that as a condition in this deviation from the right-of-way.
They agreed to that condition, or you've not asked?
We have asked, I think there's someone from the developer for Kroger that may speak to that, so I'll let him address that question.
Great, thank you.
Are we allowed to do that, Bruce? Are we allowed to deviate from the plan and then add some conditions like that to it?
Yes, the statute, the purpose of being here is the statute provides that if the county has adopted a thoroughfare plan, then you're not allowed to subsequently approve any road improvements or construction that deviates with the plan unless you, by unanimous vote, the Board of County Commissioners by unanimous vote, approve the deviation. And if the county engineer is recommending that, then my recommendation is that you would incorporate that into the decision. But again, this is a public hearing. I think we should have the clerk identify who, if anyone, received notice, and then open it up to the public to participate in the public hearing.
Okay, so let's do that. How do we notify the public of this hearing?
We sent legal notices to adjacent property owners within 500 feet of the property, as well as advertised in the newspaper 10 days prior to the public hearing.
So we actually sent
And
notice?
and we notified the township trustees.
Okay, so we mailed the notice.
We mailed notices.
All right. Is there a representative of the Kroger's? I guess that's the person that we want to know about whether they'll agree to the easements or the modifications or conditions that have been mentioned by the engineer. Are they here today? Is that you, Jeff? Sure, please. You can just state your name.
My name's Jeff Eichhorn. I'm with Henkel Schuler and Associates. We represent the developer for Kroger on this project. We encourage you to support the resolution. We were made aware of this relatively recently, so we know that we need this passage to move forward. Kroger is still evaluating all their cost. It's a very complex deal. There's a TIF that has to be passed by the township and agreed to by the county engineer's office, and this is a good first step. But it's clear that, and I'm not too handy, but is there a way we can go back to the actual Kroger site plan? Yeah. So what we're talking about today is the extension of Town Center Boulevard, probably about 1,100 linear feet to the entrance for Kroger, and that's where it would terminate. And the county engineer is recommending that we dedicate the right-of-way to the end of the property line. We think that works. It's important for the Grandin Road extension that it ties and just, eliminate the orange portion. We look forward to complete this project, but there's many hurdles that we still have to go through, but we're targeting a closing sometime in February of next year. So this is an important first step, and if that's what the county engineer requires, the dedication of right-of-way, then make it a condition, and we still need to meet with the county engineer's office about the actual construction of the road and meet with the township, but this is an important first step, and if that's what the county engineer requires, then please, we recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Since this is a public hearing, is there anyone else in the public who would like to comment about this modification to the thoroughfare plan? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Yes.
All right, do we have any discussion?
I'm fine with it with the conditions.
Okay, want to make a motion to that effect?
I move to accept the changes as presented by the county engineer to the thoroughfare plan, including the conditions that he outlined.
And second?
Okay, you want to call the roll on that?
Mr. Grossman?
Yes?
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anything else before we make the motion to go into executive session? Nope, all right. Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
I move that we go into executive session regarding personnel matters relative to the hiring and human services and pending litigation with legal counsel present.
Second?
Yes. Bruce, was that sufficient?
I'd add the word employment to that as opposed to hiring.
Okay, personnel matters relative to employment in human services and pending litigation with legal counsel present.
And that's because the statute in Ohio permits you to go into executive session for employment, doesn't mention the word hiring apparently.
Mr. Grossman?
Yes,
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
thank you.